Our passion didn't start with the mouth. It started with people, with the well-being of the profession. And if you're like me, maybe a little bit of your nerdiness in all things tech too. We all want to love what we do, but the truth is, burnout, people problems, and glass ceilings can keep us from doing what we set out to do. So let's get back to the heart of connection. Welcome to the Dental Handoff. This show is about passing you the knowledge, the habits, the systems, and the strategies to lead your teams, lean on the tech, and listen to your gut while you take care of teeth. And let's get honest, the overall health of our communities. Let's stop using the wrong end of the toothbrush, y'all. My name is Dr. Kelly Tanner. Oh, and uniquely, I'm a dental hygienist too. You can consider me a guru in the dental and leadership industry. With over 3 decades of experience, my goal is to take you to the next level by empowering growth, perspective, and confidence. By identifying the gaps, recognizing the plaque, and extracting the truth with other experts in the field. I'll share their stories, empower you to own yours, and elevate your passion in the process. So have a seat in the chair, put on your bib, and let's get to work. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Dental Handoff. Hope everyone is crushing their day. Today, I have an honor of having with me the Trevor Hier, who has been like the manager leader for a lot of things, even though he doesn't look like he's probably old enough to be the leader of a lot of things. His mind, you guys, is brilliant. So I cannot wait to hear more from Trevor, to hear about his story. So Trevor, tell us about your journey and why dental?
So, okay, this is the perfect first question. And you know, when I was back in university, I couldn't decide what I wanted to do, right? So I got a degree in English, a degree in legal studies, and a degree in exercise science. And what I realized when I graduated is that I didn't really want to do any of those things vocationally. My parents, my mother's a dentist, my dad's an orthodontist. Dental's been in my whole life forever, right? And so I knew from a young age that I didn't have the manual dexterity to do anything in the operating room, but I love the dental community. I love the people that are in the dental community. And I love what dentistry does to grow people's confidence, to improve their health. I mean, you and I have talked before about the oral systemic link and overall wellness. And so when I graduated, I realized that the dental space had so much more to offer, you know, than just being in the operating room. There was so much more to do. And so I've had the pleasure of being a part of a few dental companies since I graduated a number of years ago. And I just, you know, when it comes to being able to work with like-minded, motivated, smart people who want to make a difference and are doing that every day, I haven't found any community that's more robust and gives back more than the dental community does. So I'm just thankful to be here with you, and I'm thankful to be able to talk about that a little bit.
Oh, that's cool. And I totally agree with you, to echo your point. Dentistry is the best place to be because we have I say that because I am a little bit biased, but I've seen other professions and I just feel like ours is cooler than that, you know. we just have such a broad reach of people and impact that we can make in our professions through the many roles that we've served. Now, reading your bio, and a lot of folks who probably are going to read your bio in the show notes after this when they listen to the podcast, you've done a lot of things since you graduated from university when you decided that dental was for you. Tell us about what happened after you said, yes, dentistry, I would like to marry you. Like, tell us what happened with that.
So to take a step back and how I sort of transitioned into dentistry, throughout college, I worked at Apple. That was my first real job. And so when I graduated and figured out I wanted to be in dental, the sort of natural fit was something in tech. So I immediately, you know, got started in what has started as our family business and has quickly grown into a pretty large enterprise. And I was managing our web assets, doing our web design, some of our coding, building an app, stuff like that. One of the things that was really important to me was, you know, having no clinical training, I wanted to learn a lot about the dental industry at large. So I did a little bit of the tech side, a little bit of marketing, some logistics, all the while sort of getting my feet wet in terms of the science of dentistry and getting some of my training there. And then that role grew and I gradually began to manage first our marketing team and then some of our sales. And that sort of manifested in what, you know, you're describing in a management role. And so our two hallmark companies, from the higher lab side being Plaque HD and Steriliner. We just went through our acquisition of Plaque HD in December. And so I was really fortunate, thank you. I was really fortunate to be able to lead the effort in that and sort of going through, it actually coincided really nicely with a rebrand of our products. And that was sort of the project I was tasked with. And so that that coincided really well with the acquisition. And then during that sort of same time of getting that started, I was really fortunate to be introduced to Catapult Education and was invited to run that company. For those of you who might not be aware, Catapult Education is the largest dental education YouTube community in the world. Kelly, we're so lucky to have Kelly as a part of that, and such a wonderful, tremendous group of doctors, hygienists, and just, that's another way from the product side and the education side to be able to better the community. So between those two roles, I keep myself relatively busy along with the dog that's sleeping behind me, and a beautiful wife. And so it's been really amazing these last few years to be in the dental community.
What a journey, though, because you went from not knowing, like many of us did, right? Well, some of us did know, into tech, and to now everything. As you're talking about, like acquisitions, you're talking about teams, growing teams, having to manage those teams, being a visionary alongside of this, because I think too that your father is one of the co-founders of Steriliner and Plaque HD and the other ones. And so you grew up in this household where what you talked about was teeth and improving oral health. And how cool is that?
It's one of those things where I find fulfillment in a couple of ways in dental. Certainly working with the family business, fortunate to have two incredibly educated, incredible parents who have been passionate about dentistry since, as long as I can remember. And then to have that entrepreneurial side, to watch what it's like to take a product from an idea 15 years ago to synthesizing and doing the R&D and the sleepless nights of, is it going to work? Is it not? Are people going to like it? To take that full circle now with our Plaque HD line, and now sort of doing that same thing with Steriliner, going through that process of seeing, what the market is interested in, how we can help, dentistry and people grow. So to have been a witness to that, from childhood up until, now has been just a dream come true. Absolutely.
Did they ever do any clinical trials on you with plaque?
No, but what I will tell you they did, so I had braces 3 different times. I had 3 different rounds of Invisalign. I had headgear. I had palatal expanders. I was the worst patient. I like to think I was a pretty easy kid, but I was not a very easy dental patient. So there was no clinical trials, but there was certainly a lot of trial and error when it came to my own teeth. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think Lawrence was telling me about that, where he was just like, yeah, he was not a compliant patient.
Exactly.
That's where I was like, oh, you had to have been a guinea pig in this.
Yes, that's for sure. That's for sure.
But no, you're definitely in the lab though with them, like,
yes,
truly getting this onto the shelves for people and products that are making a difference. So in all these times, kind of stepping back, connecting the dots, and you look to see those growth opportunities, and you think, okay, how is this going to work? What do we tell our team? Are we growing too fast? Because there's always these uncertainties and the little voices on your shoulders I always talk about, like one saying, this is good, and one's, are you sure? How did you manage the teams, the people? Like, what are some of your leadership things that or tips that you could give to us of how you manage that?
So at the risk of sounding cliche, I'm going to go with, for me, the number one thing is I'm very hands-on, and I like to do as much as I can do. And there's good and bad to that. The good is that you get to see things through and you get to engineer the results in the way that you see fit. The negative is that as a business grows, you can't do everything. You don't want to be doing everything. And quite frankly, it's humbling to realize that there are people who are tasked with certain pieces of a business that are better than you might be. And so for me, the biggest key to success when it comes to our teams is empowering, our people, our family within the Higher Labs community, and Catapult certainly as well, to do what they do best, to take a bit of a hands-off approach, not in terms of being there to support and educate and help through, but allowing, people and their core competencies to flourish, not hovering, not trying to check every single little thing, because, that has 2 negative byproducts, right? It hampers efficiency, and it doesn't make your people feel very good. It doesn't make them feel like you trust them. And so empowering your team to allow them to do their best work, that ultimately to me has been one of the keys to our success. Because, when you're bringing people on, it's really, really important to be finding people who fit that specific need of your enterprise. And when you decide to bring them on, the contract to me, the emotional contract certainly is, I'm going to support you, you're going to support me, and I'm going to let you do your thing. I'm going to let you be your best. And that, has ultimately, I think, been a key driver of the growth of our businesses.
I love that. And this is the same transferable skill sets you can apply anywhere. And so when I'm thinking about what you're talking about and how this even translates to a dental practice and that team, it's no different. People have their different strengths. And I think too, and tell me if you agree, that this may translate in a way where you have to talk to individuals to figure out what lights them up, to say, where do you operate best? Where's your zone of genius, to be able to take that and put them into that zone. So they're constantly challenged. They're in their gifts, and you can say, cool, yep, that's exactly where they should be. And they thrive. Is that what you found as well?
Kelly, it's so funny you're saying that, because, I think we all have this worry, right? If you go and ask your team and you say, what do you want to do? And what do you not want to do? They're going to pick the easiest things to do, and they're going to run away from the hardest things. If you've brought the right people onto your team, that is just not true. If you find a way to get comfortable with the fact that you're going to be vulnerable and asking your team what they want to do, and really meaning it, right? Not just asking to feign this interest and letting them do what they want, but really giving them the opportunity, I've almost always been pleasantly surprised. People want to do what they're really good at. They want to work hard. They want to feel fulfilled. And having that sort of that risk of maybe they're going to pick the thing that's easy and leave something harder for someone else, I have so often found that that's just not true. And by giving people the credit that they deserve, by letting them feel and be empowered, ultimately they're doing their best work. And so I wholeheartedly agree. I think that allowing staff, employees, team members the opportunity to do what they love and to do things that they might find challenging but fulfilling, that is absolutely the way to go.
Yeah. And I think too, what you're alluding to here as well is giving them that autonomy to be in the space where they thrive and where they want to be. They get to choose. They don't get voluntold for something like, hey, go on this. I feel like I just did
That's
that.
a great term. I've never heard that term before. Is that a thing?
It is. Well, it's what they say at church, hey, you're going to be voluntold, pass the clipboard around. But then recently on this non-sexy project, I was like, I know this isn't your favorite thing, but and then too, if it's not your favorite thing, pair them with someone else as a strategy that I've learned, that who can support them so they don't feel like they're alone or they don't get stuck. So a recent example of this is that we are going through our reaccreditation process through Next Level Dental Hygiene. And so I have our director of operations here. She's working. She's like, okay, never done this before. So then I have another person help support her. And then another person on my team can help feed in the information and act as a resource. So everyone feels highly supported in this. And if you get stuck, you don't get stuck too long. It's that, just to not overarching, but just work together as a team and learn about the company and learn about the culture, build that trust, and then have that sense of accomplishment and pride that, yeah, man, I did that,
100%. And Kelly, you bring up such an important point, which is that not, on its own, not every task is going to be sexy or fun or interesting. But if you have a team that is dedicated to the common goal of making a company its best, right? Making a practice its best, whatever, a relationship, it could be anything, right? If you're involved in a relationship like that with your team members, your community, even the things that aren't super fun on their own, that are leading toward a really exciting, fulfilling goal, those things they're not cumbersome, they're not tedious. They're sort of the nuts and bolts of what makes a company run. So, a perfect example of that is when we were going through our rebrand for Plaque HD before the acquisition, I don't remember the exact number. I think it was like 47 or 48 label variations. And when you're on label 26 and you're looking at whether a font should be 1.2 space between or 1.1, and it seems sort of, it's like, does it really matter? At the end of the day, what we were working toward was, creating the best possible product for our patients and our customers. And so at the time, it sort of feels like a little bit like, extra and tedious, as I was saying, but at the end, it comes together to make something really special. And because of that time, effort, attention paid, ultimately, our team who was working on that feels so much pride in seeing it now on the shelves and seeing it all around, because they worked really hard at it. It wasn't something that they just threw together. And so, empowering your team to feel that way about even the nitty gritty is super important.
And to your point as well, I mean, I've held several of your products and I happen to just have your coconut foaming because this is my favorite.
Yes.
Now, I mean, it's, you guys, okay, I have to show this to you. It's the coconut foaming hand sanitizer. So it's with almond oil and it's very natural. it leaves you feeling hydrated. It makes you, it's clean, you feel clean. And it just is like such a pleasant scent. I'm like, oh, what is that? I feel almost like Bath and Body Works, but not so much. But I'm like, oh, I feel refreshed. But my point is that just the labeling and the way it feels on here, it feels like it's a higher end. So all of the work and my business cards, when I hand them somebody's like, do I have two?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, it's the
Yes.
card stock, because you want to
Yes.
make it feel like it's a high level experience. So all those little things, to me, as soon as I held your Steriliner, as soon as I held this product with the sanitizer, I could feel the difference in my hand before I ever put it in my mouth.
So it's so funny you're bringing up the hand sanitizer, because it highlights two really impactful things from our last, say, 18 months, especially with COVID. So, Higher Labs sort of lives by this idea of creating these mass market products with, mass market appeal, but with a niche kind of touch to them, right? So when COVID hit, just like everybody else, we were closed and trying to figure out, what that meant for our business, what that meant for our patients, et cetera. And because we're vertically integrated, because we, control A to Z of the manufacturing, fulfillment, distribution process, we sat down and we said, what can we do to make a positive impact in what was a very scary time for everybody? So we looked at hand sanitizer, which everybody was making at that point. And what we really wanted to do was twofold. We wanted to create something that was a little bit better and different, which I'm thrilled that I think it's manifested that way. And we also wanted to be able to provide that with the other products that we sell, right? And so, we were very proud to be shipping out sanitizer with all of the orders that we sent out. And, just to be able to be very nimble, to be able to make a difference on the fly. Fortunately, we don't live in a world where there's something like COVID every other day. So, we hope and pray that we don't have that same issue again for so many reasons. But I feel very thankful to be part of an organization that's able to very quickly pivot and make changes and make an impact on the community in a special way.
Absolutely. So it's, from the font to the end user experience, and then trying to make sure it makes sense for them. And then trying to, too, I think with your team, relay this and everyone, because someone, and I know on teams that I'm in, sometimes people can be off here on a tangent, and it's like, you got to bring them back to the core purpose of what was our primary objective on this. Because there's also, let's for a moment, if we can, if you don't mind, let's talk about when your team possibly disagreed and had to have a very courageous conversation, a vulnerable conversation about, we disagree on this. Do you have any examples? I put you on the spot again. Do you have any examples of how you might move forward in that situation?
So I'm gonna put Lawrence, my dad, on the spot. He's not here. He's actually in the office. It's one of his 2 patient days a month. But I'm going to use a story with him. So my dad he's the dreamer of the business. I mean, he from the very beginning, I think his whole life, he went into ortho. That was what he graduated with. But I think ultimately his goal, his mission was to be able to reach a lot more people, to be able to make things, dream things up and see them through. So dad loves making new products, new SKUs. And what ends up happening, sometimes is, we'll put it through our team. And we're very transparent about this. We will put the question out to our team and we'll say, do you like X or Y? Say it's different flavors of a product. Lawrence happens to like a particular flavor of this product. So he was on team A, call it. But team B was winning and team B won. That was the vote. And so it was really interesting, because what it illuminated to me was that, it illuminated two things. The first is that we were getting really honest feedback from our teams, right? Because when you have the founder and CEO saying, I like this, and we all put our votes in, they're all, what would be the word? They're not anonymous. Like, exactly who it is, right? So it was very known what Lawrence wanted. And we actually didn't end up doing that. And I think for me, it was a very constructive look at what could be a disagreement, because it ultimately allowed our people, our team, to have a voice. And, by the same token, it showed that you don't always have to agree, especially when there's, a potential power distance or whatever. But, at the end, if we're all working together toward that same goal of providing something that people are going to find value in and they're going to like, it doesn't matter who's right or wrong or who has what idea. And so that's just the first example that comes to my head. Something that we actually were just dealing with a few weeks ago. So it's just, that's how I look at it. I think that to have a team that feels comfortable, empowered to voice their opinions, to disagree, that honesty, that transparency, I think has made us a much better business overall.
And so again, it comes back to that vulnerability, that transparency, that honesty. And then 2, what Ray Dalio talks about in his principles book is about that radical candor and being a part of an organization. And this is dentistry too. And this is what I talk about a lot, where even though it feels uncomfortable to say, Lawrence, we don't really agree that you like this mint as much. We can disagree on this. Yes. And we win. But to bring all of the ideas at the table, and it's not about egos, it's about the idea, the best idea wins. And sometimes you iterate that and you come back to some of the original ideas, but to go through that, to understand that everyone in your team is coming to that table with that ability to have any of their ideas not shot down, that you're hearing all ideas.
Yes.
Is I think a critical point in any team. So, I always use not always, but I use the example of when a dentist is in a office and you see something, or even, your dad, any other boss, and they're doing something that's creating some type of friction with the team, their organization. That leader relies on their followers to inform them of what it's causing.
Yes.
Yeah. And so the strength is truly in the followers and the team that's there, because they inform the leader. And without that dynamic, without that trust and that power position that you called it, it can become very skewed and very biased, because truly the power is a shared leadership between the followers and the leader. So it's important, even in dental practices, I think, to come together and say, you know what, you guys, all ideas are good here. Please, let's share. What are we missing? Because that's where it all comes down to blind spots. And
yes,
what the idea that someone didn't say could have been the answer you were always looking for.
It's one of those things where the suggestion box, the open forum, the town hall, there's a big difference between having those things and actually using them, implementing them. So when it comes to taking everybody's opinions, giving your people a voice is very different than hearing them, right? And actually listening to what they're saying. And so, yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that. And I think that, living in any scenario, but certainly in business, in the echo chamber of your own head is not a win for anybody. Nobody, not one successful company, no matter if it's Fortune 500 or, a mom and pop flower store, say, not one successful business exists just because of one person. And so to be consistently reminded of that and to be implementing that into daily workflows is absolutely paramount to success. No business succeeds on the back of just one person.
I love that. And it sounds like that you all are actually living in your principles. And two, when you notice that, and sometimes you feel like that something that you want is coming through, like Lawrence's mint flavor, to acknowledge it and say, you know what, you guys, I realize that that's something, because that shows the leader's vulnerability too, to say, I was wrong in that. And I'm thinking about this differently. It's not about who's right and wrong. It's about who truly, that made me think about that differently. Yes. And next time I'm going to come to the table with more of this, and to hear your team, hear you think out loud on that, I think is an important part of that trust building too.
100%.
And that's what I've always received from you, Trevor, you and your family and those folks who you're surrounded with in your circle, because they're just, what you see is what you get, and you can ask any questions and be straight shooting. And that's one of the things that I truly honor about you all.
Well, we appreciate that. And I think that you brought up such an important point in terms of it not being a zero-sum game. It's not a win or lose, right? Like it's so much more than I'm right, you're wrong, or you're right, I'm wrong, because we're working together toward the same thing. It all comes back to that common goal, right? And so, just because dad might like a key lime pie flavor of Sterismile, say, for example, I'm not saying that's what it was, maybe it's what it was, and watermelon mint was the one that people liked more than that, that doesn't mean that dad was wrong. Maybe we'll do that one day. I don't know, maybe, probably not though. But it does mean that our people feel empowered, they have their voice, and ultimately they're being heard. And that's just so important.
You guys could put out a limited edition.
So it's so funny you're saying that. So
really?
So a little bit of a sneak peek here. So what we're thinking, because as I mentioned before, we're so well vertically integrated, is we can do flavors really quickly. I see how I got closer. I get really excited.
I know. I was like, well, you're going to come.
I got to back up for a second. So that is absolutely something that's in the works. We're certainly thinking about how we can implement that in a way that feels limited, because you put resources into, say, a flavor, for example, and you want to make sure that it's going to do well, and that and that it has enough time to go through micro and all of those things. But that is certainly something we're looking at doing. So I won't say any more on it, but I'm very excited about that.
All right, now that's just rude. No, you're just teasing us, Trevor. I mean, come on. So thank you so much for sharing this. And, I knew that when we met that there was a synergy in terms of energy, how we treated people, how we care, and how we love on people in general. Just about having that empathy and trying to create understanding, because that's truly what great relationships are about. And you've done an excellent job of this throughout your career and will continue to do, I'm sure. And so, all of this is important from any organization that you're in. And I just wanted to share this with our audience that it applies to you. Everything you're telling us, it applies to you exactly where you are, to start today, to have those courageous conversations, start today, creating that environment and say, you know what, can we just start by sharing here? What is everybody thinking? Just start by that one morning meeting. What does everybody think? And it starts with that one person asking the question.
Yes. As
it always does. So thank you so much for that little peek into your career, and tell us too how people can find you. Tell us about, can you give us like 20 seconds on like what Steriliner is? And it's personally my favorite. I cannot live without Steriliner, you guys. It's
okay.
Awesome.
So you mentioned my compliance issues, and I'm certainly not taking all the credit for Steriliner by any measure, but one of the reasons why we came up with Steriliner was for someone like me who has 2 dental practitioners in the office. I wasn't even compliant with my appliances because they were gross and they didn't smoke it and whatever. So Steriliner, SteriSmile, SteriBrush, our whole Steriliner line is meant to better clean, sanitize, take care of your appliances. Because ultimately, if you're not wearing your aligners or your mouth guards or your sleep guards, whatever it is, they're not doing what they're supposed to do. Whether it means they're not straightening your teeth, they're not protecting your teeth, they're not letting you sleep, whatever else. So that's what the whole Steriliner line aims to do, is just increase that compliance. And so Steriliner, fortunately, we've been partnered now for a couple of years with Invisalign, so we're in their family of ancillary products. We also, our Plaque HD line, as I was mentioning before, was acquired by American Orthodontics, so they have now taken that over and are already taking it to new heights, which is extraordinarily exciting. And so that sort of comprises our two main products. Things like the coconut foaming sanitizer, we do from time to time, and then that new limited edition stuff is certainly coming soon. But those are our 2 main product lines.
Yeah, and so with that too, I think with Steriliner, it gives patients, it promotes the compliance of wear of the aligners, also sleep apnea devices, occlusal guards, because they trap mold and fungus in the crevices, and any other cleaner that I was recommending to my patients as a hygienist for years, I honestly didn't know what to recommend to them. And I was just speaking to an office the other day. They were recommending Dawn dish soap. A lot of that stuff can be abrasive to the polymers that are used in that, and can then trap more stuff, biofilm, stain, you name it.
100%. So there's that piece for sure. The abrasivity is a big no-no. The other one of biggest differentiator about Steriliner and the entire line is that the vast majority of cleaners out there are killing 99% of odor-causing bacteria, which is important. Don't get me wrong. Steriliner is different in that it kills 17 of the most common bacteria, yeast, and mold, which I'm sure a lot of people don't even know are in their appliances. And so, we're not just trying to make your aligners look better or taste better or smell better. They're actually, clean and clean for you. And unfortunately, we live in a world now, especially post-COVID, where germs are, we don't see them any more than we used to, but we certainly feel their presence. And so it's now more important than ever to be taking care of our appliances. And so that's just the biggest thing for us, is not disrupting the daily routine. So you use Steriliner while you brush. It doesn't actually add any complexity to your routine. Is efficient, effective, easy to use, all of those good things. So absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you for mentioning those additional points. And then we'll also drop a link in the show notes about how to order that at steriliner.com too. We'll have a QR code that you all can scan. Their customer service is bar none. They're like 5-star everything. So Trevor, any additional final thoughts that you want to add?
I just would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge how fortunate, blessed, whatever the word is, I feel to be doing something like this with you. It's really, really gratifying to be able to be in an occupation where you get to work with people who have the same goals, the same values, the same hopes and dreams for the world. And so I know that's a little mushy, and I'm sorry about that. That's just me. But I really appreciate you having me on, and just, this kind of conversation is what dentistry is all about. So I'm just thankful to be here.
It sure is. And I'm honored to have you, because I felt the same with you. Trevor and I met at a Catapult retreat,
Yes.
because he's the head person over there, and he had drones flying in the air, man. He was like running it. He and Lou Graham and all the other great folks over there, and just have a big heart for what we're doing and the purpose and serving our why. So I think that's what you attract. You are what you attract, right? And
Absolutely.
you get back exactly what you are. So I appreciate you. So great having you on. Thank you for your time today. There'll be links in the show notes, you guys. Find Trevor, hunt him down, ask him lots of questions about his bite now. And
Good now.
hey, I'm good. But thank you so much. If you guys wouldn't mind doing me a quick favor and give us 5 stars. It'll take you just like 2 seconds on Apple. Give us a 5-star review. That would really, really just be awesome to me and to also Trevor. Thanks so much. Have a great day.